and only 3 of them came back. And the one that didn't was a father. He had a daughter just like you. Turns out he was murdered by this crazy man. And get this, that crazy man was traveling with a little girl. You see? Everything happens for a reason.
In Silver Lake, a man named David holds a service for Alec, directing words of comfort to the man's distraught daughter, Hannah. The girl asks when they can bury her father, to which David replies they'll have to wait for spring, as the ground is too cold to dig. After the service is done, David asks James, his right-hand man, how long their provisions will last, and as the latter answers, they only have enough for a week. Both agree to hunt. Meanwhile, Ellie constantly checks Joel's wound, which isn't looking too good. She makes him drink water, and though their remaining food isn't enough for her, she still gives some to him. As they're out of food, Ellie takes Joel's gun and attempts to hunt. When she finds a rabbit, she tries to shoot it, but it quickly escapes. Still, the girl doesn't give up, and soon she finds a deer. She successfully hits her mark, but it isn't an instant death. The deer runs off, leaving a trail of blood that later David and James follow. As they don't see anyone around, they try to take it with them, but are stopped when Ellie demands they drop their rifles. When David offers to trade some items in exchange for meat, Ellie immediately says she wants medicine for an infection. After James leaves to fetch it, David suggests that they move to a nearby shelter to keep themselves warm while waiting. Inside, the man asks her name, but Ellie doesn't answer. She discovers that David is the leader of his group, as well as their preacher. During their talk, he says that everything happens for a reason, but Ellie doesn't believe him. To prove his words, he recounts that recently he sent 4 men to scavenge for food, but one, Alec, was murdered by a crazy man who he says is traveling with a girl. Upon hearing this, Ellie becomes instantly alarmed, realizing that David is talking about her and Joel. Interested in Ellie, David tells James to lower his gun and give the girl the medicine. Quickly, Ellie escapes, abandoning her share of the deer. When returning to Joel, she immediately administers the penicillin, despite having no idea how and where to do it. When David returns to his group that night, they're strangely silent to his good news of having brought back an entire deer. He admits that they found the girl who's with the murderer that killed Alec, and when the sun rises, David says he'll lead a group to search for her. When Hannah then states that David should kill the man and the girl, the preacher suddenly slaps her. But then, he also offers the girl his hand, helping her back to her chair. He reminds Hannah that though Alec has died, she'll still have a father, him, and he demands respect from her while he's speaking. The next day, Ellie administers the penicillin on Joel again, and while she's outside, she notices a group of armed men coming their way. David tells his men that they're going to bring the girl back with them alive, though James isn't very keen with the idea. Hurriedly, Ellie wakes Joel up and says that she'll lead the men away from him. After leaving the injured Joel a knife to protect himself, Ellie rides the horse and shoots at the men while running away. However, James successfully shoots the horse, causing Ellie to end up on the ground, dizzy. He attempts to kill the girl, but is stopped by David, who carries her away. Back in the house, Joel hears someone approaching, and as the armed man searches around the basement, Joel kills him. Later, Ellie wakes up inside a cage, with David observing her from the outside. The man offers her protection, which Ellie refuses, saying she's not on her own. David says that if Ellie trusts him, he'll offer her a new beginning. Meanwhile, Joel traps one of David's men, and when he wakes up, he sees his companion being tortured by Joel. Eventually, the bloodied man yields and reveals that Ellie is alive and being kept in Silver Lake. Still, Joel kills the man and also dispatches the other guy. Back in Silver Lake, while Ellie tries to find weak points in her cage, she sees something horrible. When David arrives, bringing her some food, he realizes she's looking at a human's ear. He assures her that the meat in her food is venison, but Ellie still doesn't want it, kicking the bowl away and calling the man sick. David admits that they eat people and are cannibals, though only a few of them know, and he excuses their act by saying they have no choice. He says he sees so much of himself in Ellie, a natural leader, smart, loyal, and violent. He believes that Ellie can handle the truth, unlike others. In a bid to get her loyalty, David says he can tell the others to stop looking for Joel and just let him go. Pretending that she's taken by his words, Ellie breaks his fingers before attempting to grab his keys. However, she's unsuccessful, and David bashes her face against the bars. Finally, Ellie reveals her name, saying it so people will know who broke David's fingers. Meanwhile, Joel arrives in Silver Lake and enters a building. Inside, he finds strung-up human corpses. At the diner, David and James grab Ellie, lifting her to a table. David is about to use the knife to chop her up when Ellie screams that she's infected, showing the bite on her arm as proof. With both men distracted, Ellie uses the opportunity to grab the cleaver and swing it toward them, hitting James and killing him. She then bolts away. However, with the doors locked, she grabs another weapon in the form of firewood and throws it at David, hitting a curtain and starting a fire. David continues to taunt Ellie while she grabs a knife. He tells her he has changed his mind and doesn't want to kill her anymore, but instead, he wants to teach her. Ellie then attacks him, and though she stabs him, she gets slammed into the floor. David pins her down, planning to rape her. However, Ellie manages to grab the cleaver and screams in fear, disgust, and vitriol as she hacks at David again and again, brutally killing him. When she escapes outside, she gets grabbed by Joel, and though she initially struggles, she realizes it's just him. He comforts her, wrapping Ellie with his jacket before they walk away.